kind of forming the shape of the house has been a challenge. We have different side views and also sloping terrain, and also different height restrictions, and then try to make the maximum out of a shape out from that. And if you type all of that into a computer, you might digitalize the shape, the surrounding of the building, and then you have to try to add elements then to make the building work. So again, working with models and transparency. Here we also wanted to have transparency not only across but also on the diverse line. Working a lot with the facades with reference to the woods, how to create shade and light, and at the same time keep an interesting facade, and it was also a very heavily sustainable program on this one. So of course integrating these kinds of elements in the architecture was also part of the program. So the facade, it looks very complex, but when you look closer to it, it's a repetitive pattern that is changed in different variations and to be adapted on the different angles of the building. And from the facade, it also changes when the facade changes towards the south or the north. The openings change, having larger openings towards the north and the smaller openings towards the south, as you can see more closely on this picture. And a small view from the interior. You can see our office in the back, I think. I also picked one project from the Middle East that we've been working with lately. It's the fish market in Mudra in Amman, which is very plain and simple today, and of course creating something new for them. The situation there is quite like some of the other situations we have been working with before, both in Alexandria and in Oslo. It's the shore and the seaside, and it's in the small corniche. And of course, working with the landscape, with the city, and with the structure of the city, and trying to transform that into buildings. And using that curve into the building itself. This is the traditional existing market. Also trying to use signs from their written language and then transforming it into architecture through digitalizing it, and then transforming it to real architecture that can be built, which is a structure covering the whole site. And there a nice picture again. The largest scale project that we have done, I don't have very many pictures of it, is Cape here. It's a large development area also in the Middle East. And there it's again taking active engagement with the site. Here they of course have a desert, a vast area, and they are going to build a new city. So then of course it's a matter of strategy and choice of location, and they have these issues with water and also finding the shade. And they wanted to also have a city that could grow over time. So they were looking for patterns in nature to also inspire the growth of the city. And of course we find many kinds of patterns, both from the man-made and from the nature-made, that you can transform into architecture. And of course, looking into the landscape topography and doing analysis of how the water flows, where you can find the water and how you can use it, and where you also can use the shade and also bring it into energy. So there's how it was built, and I will show you maybe a film of this later if we have time. And the same I will do for this one. This is research center that we made in Saudi Arabia, competition that we lost to Saha. We seemed to lose for Saha several times, but this was also a research center, and of course built on very sustainable principles, where we took into conditions all the natural elements and tried to transform them into modern architecture. And then finally I would like to show you some of our smallest projects. Here we made an exhibition for Think, the electrical car, and to symbolize that there is no pollution from these cars, we made these plastic bubbles that a car could drive around in with no polluting. And of course our projects expands all from the larger city scale to these very small, tiny exhibition projects. And not at least, from the great projects in the desert, it's very important to remind ourselves that architecture is as important tool to develop and secure both environmental and human sustainability. And the needs of that cat must also be considered. So, where do we go next? Research on a daily basis. That's how I would like to think about our daily work in Snøhetta. And I'd like to finish my talk with two movies made by another company for two of our projects. So the first one is the science center that I was showing a picture from.
Our very existence on planet Earth is made possible by our proximity to the sun. Without the sun, there would be no atmosphere, no water, no life, and no culture. Life on Earth has evolved in perfect adaptation to global and local conditions. Our recent industrial history has allowed us to ignore our ultimate dependence on the sun and on the Earth's climate. Capsule will be a powerful symbol for a new focus on sustainable, energy-efficient development. The challenge facing us today is to develop building designs that will respond closely to our environment. Our design has been directly informed by the Riyadh climate in two ways. A new iconic structure takes its form from specific sun paths over the site. These lines give form to a large heat shield which provides protection from the worst of the sun's heat. Beneath the shield there is a core of constant shade which has been carved to suit the times of day when the sun is at its most intense. This core volume forms the occupied space of the research center. The resulting facades provide a high degree of daylight penetration with no direct solar beam. The shield also supplies free energy to drive the building's chillers, as well as radiating excess heat to the night sky. The research center represents our future. Its iconic form will be clearly visible from the highway and from the air. The remaining buildings take their cue from local solutions. We have looked to vernacular architecture for hard-earned knowledge that is so well suited to its environment. Traditional buildings in the region make use of massive, solid walls to provide shade and to soak up the heat of the day. At night, the heat radiates off, keeping the internal temperature at an acceptable level. In some cases, they are partially or completely buried to reduce exposed surface area and harvest cool underground temperatures. If we look to nature, we can see how local flora and fauna have adapted to the conditions, finding a foothold in areas of shade or in surface depressions where water and cool air can be found. We intend to reinforce the existing site topography and make the most of the shade and moisture in a man-made wadi. The library, conference center, exhibition center, and musalla are located in a new courtyard at wadi level, along with a range of pleasant squares and gardens. A very real sense of place with a human scale is created around the base of the research building, where staff can meet under the sheltering dome of the sun.
I'm going to finish with one little film, also about environmental issues, because I think environment and sustainability will be one of the main issues, if not the main issues for architects in the future. And of course, taking responsibility for future generations. I want you to see the small film that we made for Think, the electrical car. It's something to think about every day, and also quite funny. Okay, thank you and good night.
Dziękujemy serdecznie naszym gościom, dziękujemy Państwu za wizytę. Jeśli mają Państwo jakieś pytania, to jeszcze przez chwilę mam na to czas. Ja chciałbym jeszcze o jednej rzeczy wspomnieć. Mianowicie, jak Państwo pewnie wiedzą, można to wyczytać na naszej stronie, na naszym Facebooku i wszędzie we wszystkich mediach. Zaanonsowaliśmy spotkanie jeszcze jedno ze strony, to ma 26 października. Mamy pewne problemy w związku ze zmianą harmonogramów kilku projektów sanety, ale jeszcze nie jest ani na 100% pewne, że będziemy musieli odwołać, ani nie możemy na 100% potwierdzić. Zatem zapraszam na naszą stronę, na naszego Facebooka, miejcie ręce na pulsie, czy jak to się tam mówi, zbierajcie informacje, miejmy nadzieję, że się uda i trzymajcie kciuki. Do zobaczenia 27, bo mam nadzieję. Thank you.